Hi all, it's me ARYA.P.S is going to take a seminar on the topic Lucas critics. The new classical economist Lucas and others do not agree with the Keynesian and monetarist analysis that workers form their expectations of current price level and inflation rates on the basis of the past behavior of price level. So they question the Keynesian and monetarist view that there is slow adjustment of price expectations, and for analysis of that effect of a policy, these expectations can be assumed to remain constant in the short run. So the advocates of the rational expectations argues that such formulations of expectations formation is quite simplicit and naive. It is quite simplistic and naive. So the firms and the workers cannot continue to form expectations on the basis of the past behavior of price, which results from the changes in its policy when they are proved to be systematically wrong. So therefore, according to the neoclassical theory of rational expectations as explained above, so people quickly form and reserve their expectations using all available informations and intelligently predict. Okay, so they predict that the changes in the price and form their expectations are on that basis. So thus if the expectations are rational, then private economic agents, of course, they can use all the information to predict the price level following the adoption of expansionary monetary policies. So if the expectations are rational, then the policy changes by the government will be anticipated by the people. So if the government is changing any policy, then we can anticipate what the changes government is going to take. So firstly, either the government has announced the policy change or the people may anticipate the change because the policy market. So the central bank or government is known to respond in a certain systematic way. So for example, if the central bank of a country is known to respond systematically to follow expansionary monetary policy, so when the situation of unemployment of labor emerges, then people anticipate that the people will they anticipate that the central bank will expand the money supply for what, to tackle the unemployment problem. Okay, and further that this will result in rise in price level. So according to John Muth, the of the concept of this rational expectations, that rational expectations are essentially the same as the prediction of the relevant economic theory. So for understanding of the new classical, that Lucas model of rational expectation, we should, it is necessary to explain Lucas aggregate supply and Lucas aggregate demand function. Okay, so now we are going to explain about Lucas aggregate supply function and Lucas aggregate demand function. So first we are going to explain about Lucas aggregate supply functions. So now the key element in neoclassical theory is the particular specification of aggregate supply function. Okay, so that was formulated by who? Robert Lucas. So according to this, the real aggregate output is fluctuations of the difference between the actual price level and the expected price level. So according to Robert Lucas, then the real aggregate output, the real aggregate output is it is a fluctuation of the difference between the actual price level P and the expected price level P. So Lucas supply function can be written as y is equal to y star plus a alpha into P minus P star. Okay, now the difference between the actual price level and the expected price level is described as price surprise. Okay, it is described as a price surprise, that we don't know, it's a surprise, it is like a surprise. Now in the beginning of the each period, a firm expects a certain price level for that period. Okay, if actual price level happens to be different, there is a price surprise. For example, if actual price level exceeds the average expected price level, then the firm will learn about it only slowly, since only others certain time lag, it will realize that all the price has risen. Okay, however, the firm knows quickly that the price of its own product has risen. So thus the firm perceives, though incorrectly, that the price of its product has risen relative to others. So thus the firm are fooled in believing that their relative price had risen. So in response to the rise in its relative price, the firm will increase its output. That's why the difference between the actual price level and the expected price level is termed as a price surprise. Okay. Likewise, when there is a positive price surprise, workers too are fooled in believing that the price that is their real wage has also risen relative to the other price. So in other words, with positive price surprise, they erroneously believe that their real wage rate has also been risen. So through though the real wage has actually risen and its response, they supply more work hours. Okay. So then now when the actual price level has higher than the expected level, the economy will produce more output and employ more labor than when the price level is there at their expected level. So the rationale for Lucas supply function is that unexpected increase in the price level can fool workers and firms into thinking that their rational price has changed, causing them to alter the amount of labor or goods they chosen to supply. Okay. Now, however, it may be emphasized that with the rational expectations as assumed to be Lucas, and firms and workers will not make any systematic errors in expecting the price level, so that the actual price level will not differ from the expected price level. So thus with the changes in the money supply and hence in aggregate demand, only the price level and money wages will change, leaving the output and employment will be unchanged. The output and employment will be employment will be unchanged. Therefore, like the classical Lucas and other advocates of regards expectations believe that money is neutral. Okay. Now we are moving to Lucas aggregate demand functions. Okay. Now the second element is the rational expectation theory is the nature of aggregate demand. Okay, it is the fluctuations in aggregate demand that bring about change in price level and output. It is a fluctuation that will bring about a change in price level and output. So in Lucas' new classical approach, aggregate demand is generally considered in terms of quantity theory. Okay, and it is given as AD into MB is equal to PY. So where M is the money supply, V is income velocity of money, and P is the price level, and Y is the real price. Now or aggregate Y is the real price and or income or aggregate output. Now aggregate demand is this in this approach is given mainly by money supply multiplier by the velocity, that is MV. Now in terms of growth of the variables, the above quantity theory equation can be, we can return the theory equation like delta M by M is equal to delta P by P plus delta Y by Y. So note that the velocity V, okay, the V is assumed to be constant and it disappears in the equation written in term of the growth of these variables. So rewriting, now we are rewriting the above equation. We have delta P by P is equal to delta M by M is minus delta Y by Y. And here delta Y by Y, which measures growth rate of output, is generally written as doing so we have generally written as delta P by P is equal to delta M by M of C minus G. Okay, so the expectation inflation rate by the private economic agents, that is the firms and workers, will depend on the expected growth rate of money supply delta M by M and the expected growth rate of output, that is G. So delta P by P is equal to delta M by M minus G. Okay. Okay. Having explained the essential element of both supply function and demand function of Lucas' rational expectation approach, we now turn to explain and illustrate the complete Lucas rational expectation model in terms of AS and AD. Okay, so to further simplify the model, we take expected price level P is determined by the expected money supply M and expected output level Y rather than the expected growth rate even on their variable. So here we discussed about Lucas critics. In this we described about Lucas supply function and Lucas aggregate demand function. So I hope all understand. Thank you.